baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Mic check, everybody. Welcome into On Deck. As you can see, we're starting a little bit late, and I'll tell you why. It's because I don't know where you're watching from right now, but where we are is all thunderstorms tonight. In fact, I've been getting work emails saying that the news station lost power. So if they can lose power, I assure you we could. I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to get pushed off the stream. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Obviously, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been talking about for the past couple of months. A late start, but a start nonetheless. And I think we can all be happy about that. Opening day starting tomorrow night for the Atlanta Braves. Will be taking on the Cincinnati Reds. And, I don't know about you, but it's something that I'm very excited for. It's something that I couldn't wait for the past few months. So I'm glad that we're finally here and glad that we can finally watch the Braves. Hopefully you'll be able to be in the ballpark. I will not be. But what I will be doing is going live right after the game tomorrow night. That is something I can announce for sure right now. We will be going live after the game. Just an instant reaction to whatever happens tomorrow night, win or lose. We will be going live, so I assume that'll be right around, I guess about 10:30, I want to say, but we'll be ready to go and hopefully be able to jump on right after the game. So hopefully that's the case. We may join in progress, put up that intro graphic and just have a lobby waiting during the ninth inning or so. We'll see. I doubt that. We'll probably jump in a little bit early, but not too early. Want to give you a chance to enjoy the game, but depending on how it goes, we very well may do that. Robert Gall, good to hear from you, buddy. Thanks for the super chat. Thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. He said, let's run it back. Go Braves. I really appreciate you, Robert. You know that. And hopefully, you guys are... more of you guys will join the chat. But, by the way, guys, make sure to like the video. That's how you get it out there. Make sure to like the video. That helps with the algorithm. That helps with getting it to a broader audience. It naturally does that. Also, if you're new here, please do subscribe. I would appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. And, I really do appreciate it. But thanks again, Robert, for the super chat. And, guys, by the way, get your questions in. This is primarily going to be a Q&A. I do have a couple things I'm going to go through just prior to opening day. First off, it's going to be the opening day roster, because this is what we got so far. This is, by all intents and purposes, what it will be. And I decided not only to give you this, but to also divide it up for you and make it a little easier to digest. So what you're seeing here is basically separations of power here in a way. So in red, you got the starting pitchers. It will be not in this order, but Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Kyle Wright, Huascar Ynoa, and wouldn't you know it, Tucker Davidson. They are pulling in a sixth starter because there's a 28-man roster. Why not throw in some extra pitching? You don't need bench bats, and I think that is definitely something to take advantage of. But also, what I want you to notice in the right-handed pitching that's in yellow, you got Kenley Jansen, Colin McHugh, Tyler Thornburg, Darren O'Day, and Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider was kind of a surprise here because, obviously just a great talent in the minors, but at the same time, he's young. I mean, this is a big surprise. So Spencer Strider does make the opening day roster. That is, a bit of a surprise, but at the same time, not too big. Going along with Tyler Thornburg, I think those are the biggest two surprises. Darren O'Day, not a big surprise, obviously coming out of the minors, off a minor league deal anyway, but not too big of a surprise there. But, at the same time, Tyler Thornburg, I thought was kind of a big surprise. We talked about Tyler Thornburg in depth a few streams ago. Showed you this graphic. He's only making league minimum pretty much. So, or not league minimum, but he's making about $1 million. I mean, a little less. But he missed 2021 with Tommy John surgery. So obviously he's going to be an easy guy to root for. I see down there you guys are mentioning Travis d'Arnaud to be the comeback player of the year. That's from Tyler. Good to hear from you. Maybe Tyler Thornburg could be the comeback player of the year. I think that's certainly a goal of his is to come back and be able to perform on a level that could compete for the roster and could compete for in a championship run. So hopefully that'll be the case. But alongside him, no surprises here: Kenley Jansen and Colin McHugh. So that's your right-handed pitching. But in that same token, left-handed pitching. This is where most of the faces of the night shift are going to come. This is your Tyler Matzik, A.J. Minter, and Will Smith. Sean Newcomb's included in that list. And I think what you're seeing here, I mean, our bullpen's a good bullpen, because what you're not seeing here is who we're missing. I don't think, if I'm honest with you, I don't think Spencer Strider makes the opening day roster if Luke Jackson was healthy. That's one of the guys we're missing. Kirby Yates is another one. So the bullpen's only going to improve as folks get healthy. Luke Jackson will miss the 2022 season, but Kirby Yates will be coming back. I mean, there is improvements to be made halfway through the season. And it's not only in the bullpen. I mean, obviously we know Ronald Acuna is coming back. Starting pitching-wise, you got Mike Soroka. I mean, there is certainly faces that will return. What I find interesting about this, and you see it in light blue, is the three catchers that are coming back, Travis d'Arnaud, Manny Pena, William Contreras. I did not think at any point, once we signed Manny Pena, that William Contreras was coming back. I just saw no real, I just didn't understand why, and I was wrong. They're pulling in Contreras. There's been talk about, I mean, all kinds of things really for him. I mean, there's talk about putting him, obviously at the catching position, but also in the outfield. There's talk about him possibly getting time at third base, which is a surprise. I mean, because obviously we have third base pretty much covered with Austin Riley, but I think they're trying to make him a bench bat for right now, just a utility player. And, I think a lot of people raise an eyebrow. I mean, I raised an eyebrow at it for sure, but when you got a player like that who's young, I mean, I think, a lot of people have assumptions about what catchers are able to do in other positions, but this is a guy that, I think, why not let him try something else? I mean, if it means he could contribute to the team, I still think that he was the one that was going to be traded in the Matt Olson deal as opposed to Langoliers if the Braves had their way, and this is why, because there's really nowhere for him to go to the naked eye. There's nowhere for him to go here at the moment, and I thought they were going to just wait on Langoliers, but his bat's pretty good. I mean, if you can plug him in different situations, his bat stacks up. So it is what it is. Now, this is where you're getting into what the lineup and bench is primarily going to look like outside of catchers. Obviously, your infielders. Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson. That's going to be your primary infield with Orlando Arcia as a bench bat and a utility infielder. Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, Marcelo Ozuna, Alex Dickerson, and Guillermo Heredia is going to make up your outfield. Obviously, I think your primary outfield, obviously, is those first three: Eddie Rosario, Duvall, and Ozuna. But Dickerson very well could fill in the outfield early on, maybe even Guillermo Heredia getting a spot start. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see what the opening day lineup is. They have not released it, at least as far as I've seen. They haven't released it. I assume they will tomorrow. But the Braves have plenty of talent. No matter what the lineup is and what order, I can assume that, to me, it seems like Matt Olson's going to be the number 2, which I think is interesting. For sure, I definitely think that's what the case is going to be. I looked at a couple projected lineups that all had Matt Olson in the 3-hole and had Austin Riley in the 2-hole. Some of them had Ozzie Albies in the 2-hole, had Eddie Rosario in the 1-hole. I mean, I've seen a bunch of variations. It's going to be interesting to see what Brian Snitker does, just because there are so many variations that this lineup can take, and I think that a lot of guys can fill a lot of different spots throughout this lineup. I think Eddie Rosario could be, we talked about this the other day, I think Eddie Rosario could be a 1-hole, I think he could be a 6-hole, and I also think he could be a 9-hole hitter. So it's going to be interesting. I've told you what I think about it. If you want me to go through it, I've seen some questions asking about the lineup. If you want me to go through it, I would like to see, early on in the season, I'd like to see Eddie Rosario taking the leadoff spot. Maybe until Acuna returns, if he's successful there, maybe he stays there. I don't know the exact answer. But I know Acuna loves that leadoff spot, and I think if that's the case, he should keep it as long as he can. But aside from that, I think Matt Olson's the 2-hole. I haven't, seen another lineup show me that across the internet today. Not even from DraftKings, but they don't follow the team as close as I do, I don't think. I think Matt Olson, based on what everybody has said in Braves media, based on what all the assumption is, I think he's going to take over, I hate to say it, but I think he's going to take over the Freddie Freeman spot at the 2-hole. That's what I think, and I think he'll be protected by either Austin Riley or Marcell Ozuna in the 3-hole. I hope it's Austin Riley, if I'm honest with you, and then you'll have Ozuna in the 4. Beyond that, I think it's pretty fluid. I'd probably go either Ozzie Dansby in the 5-hole, maybe even Duvall. But you know what? I go Duvall 5, Ozzie 6, and then after that, the catcher spot, Dansby probably in the 9-hole. But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is a great opening day roster. Nothing to complain about here. Nothing, to hang your head on. I think at the end of the day, this is something that is going to be exciting. But again, if I had to pick the lineup, I wish I had a graphic prepared. I am sorry that I do not, but I wish I did. I'd probably go Eddie Rosario, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Adam Duvall, Ozzie Albies, the catcher spot, so d'Arnaud / Pena / Contreras, I guess now. And then outside of that, I obviously you got a DH spot in there somewhere. Maybe Dickerson. I mean, depending on whether or not he's in the outfield or not, I definitely think your DH is going to come from the outfield. I assume, Marcell is going to do that early on, and then Dickerson will play every day right field. So I probably put him in the 8-hole, and then I go Dansby Swanson in the 9-hole. So I have not seen, anywhere that they drop the opening day lineup, but I don't think they have yet either. So that is what I project to be the opening day lineup. We'll see what happens, but we'll see. That's all I can really tell you right now. By the way, guys, thank you again for tuning in. I'm going to get to your questions now in just a second, but before I do, if you could do me a favor, make sure to like the video, help get it out there. I would appreciate it. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do content like this most days, at least every other day or so. This weekend will be a little bit more spotty because I am going out of town to get you some interview content from former Braves, and I believe Mark Wohlers will be there. Daryl Cheney will, of course, be there. I got some interviews planned for this weekend, so we may do a stream, but more than likely I'm probably not, just because I have a lot going on this weekend. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, if we do a stream, it's not going to be near as produced, just because I'm going to be out on scene. So we'll see what happens there. No promises, but again, we'll see. But if nothing else, I will get you some good interview content, but we have a lot to look forward to as well. We got live interviews with Johnny Estrada coming up. That'll be fun. Former Atlanta Brave catcher, all-star. So that'll be fun as well. But yeah, so make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when we go live and all that good stuff. So I do appreciate it. All right, so let's tune in to the questions real quick. By the way, appreciate you guys monitoring the chat for me. I'll leave it at that. Appreciate that. RLP, opening day is tomorrow, and I couldn't be more excited. So glad to see a stream night before opening day. Do you have any thought on what the lineup will be tomorrow? Again, I'm going purely off memory here. I'll go Eddie Rosario, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Adam Duvall, Ozzie Albies, the catcher spot, so d'Arnaud tomorrow. In the 8-hole, Dickerson, just assuming he's in the lineup, period, at the DH spot or in the outfield, and then Dansby in the 9-hole. So it's going to look a little bit different because we're playing American League rules, I guess baseball rules now, but we are playing what used to be American League rules with the DH, so it does look a little bit different, no pitcher spot, so we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to it. Again, Robert Gall, thank you for that. Do appreciate the super chats. If you want your question answered immediately and a little bit more depth, always super chat. I will do my best to answer any questions for a longer period of time if you super chat. I try to go a little bit more in depth when you guys drop money in the chat. Appreciate the generosity there. Oren Griswold, what's our opening day batting order? There it is. I've already told you, so I'm glad I could answer that before I could even get to the comments. Wilmer Chinchilla, Tyler, I mentioned this earlier. Tyler says Travis d'Arnaud says comeback player of the year. It would be interesting. I mean, but he also came back last year and won a World Series. So that is it would be interesting. I don't know if he'll be the comeback player of the year. I don't know who's going to be the comeback player of the year. I mentioned Tyler Thornburg could give it a shot. He actually did. If you go look at his stats, relief pitchers are really hard to pin down. In terms of awards and stuff, because there's so many of them, honestly. But Tyler Thornburg, I wish I had his stats, but I don't. His stats were pretty good prior to the 2021 season. Obviously missed with Tommy John, is going to be looking to come back. If he can be a steady part of the Braves bullpen, I don't see why he couldn't potentially win that award as well. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think Ronald Acuna could be the comeback player of the year. He's already stealing bases in practice and stuff. I mean, he looks good. And, he missed half of last season. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think there's a lot of potential for the Braves to win some awards this year for sure. Maybe even another World Series ring. AC Gonzalez says, I think Acuna would probably be a better candidate for comeback player of the year. I promise I didn't even see that till just now. But I definitely think Acuna very well could be a good candidate for comeback player of the year. I mean, everybody saw the video where he hit the home run in batting practice and and emphatically said, I'm back, so I definitely think he's motivated. And if that means he wins a a comeback player of the year award, then so be it. RLP says this team looks stacked with depth. I tend to agree with you. I mean, what's crazy about it is it's only going to be added on to, right? I mean, like the team looks good on opening day, but you got to remember who you're getting back. Obviously we already got back Marcell Ozuna, but we're going to pick up Acuna within the first 10 days of the season, in some capacity. I think Dickerson's stint, depending on what he does early on in his first few games, is going to be fairly short at the major league level. I don't see Guillermo Heredia going down. I just don't think they're going to do that. And obviously they're going to need an infielder. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. Well, it could be Dickerson. It could be William Contreras in the same regard. I think one of those two guys are going to be sent down, maybe even a pitcher if you wanted to with a right-hander and Spencer Strider. But somebody's got to be sent down to give Acuna a spot. And I think the biggest candidates for that would probably be Strider, Contreras, and Alex Dickerson. But again, we'll see. And that's just me looking at the roster and giving you a blank answer. But I mean, maybe even Sean Newcomb. But I think left-handed pitching is going to be pretty valuable based on this roster. So we'll see what happens. But I think it is definitely got plenty of depth. I mean, especially since you don't need that many pinch hitters. I think the biggest question mark for the Braves, and I've said this all throughout spring training and prior to it, the biggest question mark for the Braves is going to be the starting rotation. And by the way, if you guys didn't see it, in Gwinnett, two guys that have been getting a lot of attention are Touki Toussaint, who struck out 8 batters, I think, in his first appearance in Gwinnett. Braden Shoemake has been putting up good numbers, which is a major development because we've all been wondering when's Braden Shoemake going to come to the major league level. And I've told you, even throughout spring training this year, based on what I've seen in the past few years in the stat book, and not to say that I wasn't impressed because that's kind of harsh, but it hasn't been anything to make me think he's anywhere near ready to be in the major league level. If he continues to do what he does, maybe he's found, something in the off season where, he's obviously changed his swing. Grant McCauley had a great tweet yesterday showing the difference, or I think he retweeted somebody, but it was showing the difference of Braden Shoemake's swing, and it has definitely been adjusted. So maybe there's something there where he's found something and he can perform. And what's interesting about that, and I'm going to pull that timetable up, what's interesting about that is Dansby Swanson's contract's up at the end of the year. And I only tell you that to say that, we've seen a notable Brave leave fairly recently. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. What I am saying is that gives the Braves a little bit more of a bargaining chip to say, well, Dansby, you're not our only shortstop. So we'll see what happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is something to keep an eye on. That's the best way I can put it. I don't think you see Braden Shoemake this year. I think he's going to stay in the minors unless they decide, late that, he's a better backup infielder than Orlando Arcia. But I think for right now he's going to stay in the minors. But we'll definitely see. Stephen Williams asked, "Did I miss something? What happened to Jackson?" You're talking about Luke Jackson. Yeah, Luke Jackson. He's basically they're talking about him having Tommy John surgery. I don't know the ins and outs of it. Oren Griswold down there says UCL tear, I believe. Very well could be. I really don't know the ins and outs of the injury, to tell you just the blunt truth. I don't know. I've seen it, but I don't. It's hard to remember everything. But with Luke Jackson, all I do know is that he is out for the year. That's what I think is important. There is Luke Jackson will miss the 2022 season, which is unfortunate because he was a fundamental part of the regular season last year. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people, that are casual fans of the Braves tend to forget, how much development we've seen in Luke Jackson, just in general, because Luke Jackson in his early years was not doing so great on the Atlanta Braves. A lot of people were ready to get rid of him, and I was one of those people. I mean, there were times where he just felt rocky in the ninth inning, but then you sit back for a second and you go, well, maybe this guy shouldn't be in the ninth inning. And he got a lot of valuable experience. I think he's used that to help him develop. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, I obviously, in the postseason, he struggled against the Dodgers a little bit. Makes you wonder if something was going on then, because he was so good in the regular season. I mean, it just can't be understated how good he was in the regular season. But yeah, obviously we wish Luke Jackson the best, and we'll see what happens. But this bullpen is still just absolutely stacked. I mean, it is. I mean, it really is. And on paper, anyways, we got to see how the season develops. But based on what they did last year, Matzik, Will Smith, and AJ Minter, they're the ones that are healthy. And this isn't everybody in the pen. This is just the ones that I decided to focus on a particular day a few weeks ago. But, you got Kirby Yates coming back, top left there. Kenley Jansen's going to be solid. I mean, they've only added to the pen. And, it makes me wonder, a lot of people wondered why we spent so much money on Kenley Jansen, $16 million this year, by the way. A lot of people wondered, why did we spend so much money on Kenley Jansen? Maybe it's because the Braves had an early indication that Luke Jackson might not be healthy this year. Maybe they knew before we did, well in advance. Obviously, Luke Jackson knew something. It's his arm, so he definitely knew something. But not to say that, that's exactly why they did it. I think they wanted to add to their pen anyway. I mean, look at what the Dodgers just did with Craig Kimbrell. You can never have enough, bullpen arms. But at the same time, maybe they knew something on the right-handed side of things that they wanted to make sure they had enough. Strictly Losses says, do I think we see Elder later this year? Well, if you look at the opening day roster, if you look at this roster and you focus purely on starting pitching, which is in red right there, if you focus purely on that, you got 6 guys. 3 of those are solid. 3 of those aren't going anywhere pending injury, right? I mean, you don't ever envision Max Fried or Charlie Morton going down to the minors. I don't envision Ian Anderson taking a step back. I see him only improving. Kyle Wright, Huascar Ynoa, Tucker Davidson, those are your 3 biggest question marks on this roster to me, in terms of what you're depending on to carry you for the year or for much of the year, right? You're counting on those guys to be the back end of your rotation in some capacity. Whether they cover 3 innings or 6 innings, that's who you're counting on at the moment. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people have a lot of faith in Kyle Wright, and I'm not saying I don't. I think he's done great during the spring, but what I am saying is that Kyle Wright has, raised some question marks over himself over the past few years. Now, I'm not saying I don't have faith. I said on the last stream, Kyle Wright, may prove a lot of people wrong, and I am more than fine if he proves everybody wrong. But at the same time, your starting rotation is your biggest question mark. So with that said, Tucker Davidson, he's another one of those young guys that, you may see have some trouble. That doesn't mean that these 2 guys won't, be great in the future. They very well may be. But if Bryce Elder, who has performed in a lot of ways in the minor leagues and done well in spring and has looked really good, obviously, one of the first few draft picks a couple of years ago, Spencer Strider right there with him, he very well may make it to the majors, depending on, how much the starting rotation struggles. I don't think it'll be until late, or maybe not even late, but it won't be till midway through the season, I think, personally. But there's a lot of prospects that I think a lot of people are waiting on. Bryce Elder's one of them. Spencer Strider is one of them. A lot of people wanted him to be in the starting rotation. Tucker Davidson has been one for the past few years. Aside from starting pitching and even bullpen, aside from pitching as a whole, Drew Waters, Christian Pache before he was traded, Michael Harris now. There's been these names that we've all been focusing on, but you got to give them time to develop as well. So, maybe Bryce Elder needs another year in the minors. I don't know, to tell you the truth. Like, I don't have that close of an eye on the minors. What I will tell you is that he has impressed a lot of people, including myself. I mean, he looks good. Spencer Strider's another one of those guys. I'll be honest with you. I said earlier that I didn't think Spencer Strider was going to make the opening day roster until I saw Luke Jackson got hurt, right? And the reason that is because everything I saw from him, he had good stuff. He had 100-mile-an-hour pitching, but the control wasn't there. Like, he'd strike out too, but he'd walk too. That I want to see improve. And look, this is one particular, appearance I'm talking about. But, that's the kind of thing that I think you see in young pitchers that could be worrisome. Spencer Strider's not necessarily that guy, but, it's something to keep an eye on with all of the young pitchers. Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder, Tucker Davidson, Kyle Wright. I'll even throw Huascar Ynoa in that, even though I think Huascar Ynoa, of all these guys, is going to be, one of the most consistent, because Ynoa has been around. This is a guy who, before he was injured last year, was one of the Braves' most consistent pitchers in the starting rotation, was the guy that the Braves were, basically hoping and praying that he would, be the guy throughout the year, and it didn't end up going that way. He came back before the year was out, but he wasn't the same. And I'm not saying, that's going to happen again. I'm not saying it's not. I don't know. But this is when he's got to prove himself. This is when he's got to prove that, the first part of the year last year wasn't a fluke. We talked about that pretty in depth the other day. In its splits. We talked about this, his first half versus the second half. Equally as many games, almost as equally amount of innings pitched, and the same exact amount of strikeouts. So what's the problem? Look at his ERA. That's the difference. So I got to see, can he avoid, damage? Can Huascar Ynoa get out of trouble? So that's something to keep an eye out with him. But there's a lot of things to keep an eye out with these pitchers, as they develop. And that's going to continue till the end of time, right? Like, there's nothing that's going to change that except experience. And, a lot of pitchers are going to have those struggles, throughout their entire career. It's not something that's, completely abnormal with these guys to have those types of struggles. And, the ability to get out of trouble is not something that, comes easy. It's just not. We've seen the development of Max Fried. And I'll even say we've seen the development of Ian Anderson and Mike Soroka even so quickly that, we expect everybody to just do that. A lot of times it takes time. It takes experience, and it takes knowing, what to do and what pitch to throw at the major league level. That only comes with major league at bats and major league appearances. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, I know I've kind of rambled here. I appreciate the question there, strictly losses. When it comes to Elder, I think that you're going to see a very fluid starting rotation this year. Because if Kyle Wright was to go in and struggle for 2 or 3 appearances, that's only going to last so long before he's sent back down to the minors again. If Tucker Davidson's not able to go and be the guy they're hoping him to be, if Huascar Ynoa struggles, how long, is the string there before we go, okay, who else do we got, right? Maybe Spencer Strider gets that call first. Maybe, we got to see what's going to happen. But in terms of later this year, I think that's a possibility. But I think it's been a possibility to see guys like Drew Waters and before that, Pache, and before, we've had those possibilities and them not happen on certain years. I remember the first time we saw Pache, it was a big surprise, and I think it was only because of an injury as well. So we saw him a good bit last year, but we didn't see Drew Waters. And I think even when Acuna went down, everybody assumed that Drew Waters was going to get the call. Instead, we went and acted at the trade deadline. So I think it all depends on what's available. If that's what the Braves view as their best option. But the important part here is that they have those options to go to if need be. So That's a good point, and thanks for bringing up the question. I really do appreciate it. Michael Foster says, "What up? What's going on, Michael?" Oren Griswold, I appreciate that. Stephen Williams says, "Freed at DH." You know, Stephen, we have a ongoing conversation at my house about Max Fried. We have been taking bets every year on whether or not Max Fried is going to hit a home run in a Major League Baseball game. And, I'm not going to say that I participated in this bet. I don't gamble. But, my brother and my dad have had this conversation many times. I've witnessed it. And they both think that Max Fried can hit a home run. I think he can too. To tell you the truth, unfortunately, obviously he won a Silver Slugger, so that's got to count for something. But unfortunately, with the new rules, it's going to be tough for him to get those at bats, and I think we're all aware of that. But hopefully, at some point, he gets to have that. And I talked to Marvin Freeman the other day. I talked to Marvin Freeman the other day about about his about all the changes in baseball, and you can check out that interview on the channel, by the way. But I mentioned, I said. He goes that he didn't like the changes because the pitcher spot was an easy spot for him to pitch around. I said, well, it also was a couple of bats. He said, yeah, I never would have gotten 2 homers had I not hit every day. So I think that's unfortunate part of the game we're missing. I definitely think that it's important that we update the game and change the game, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how the game evolves. Again, it might shift back to where it once was. But I think Max Fried very well. If there's a pitcher that's going to get the opportunity to hit, it's going to be Max Fried. RLP says tomorrow around 11 or 12 they will release the opening day lineup. That's the case. What you're seeing right here, by the way, I should have mentioned this. This is my projected lineup. And I would venture to say that it's going to be this right here. This is what every website out there will tell you. This is what ESPN, I believe, put out. I mean, this is to a T. And there's really, because there's no surprises. And everybody that follows the Braves closely, the David O'Briens of the world, the Grant McCaulleys, they're all putting this out there as well. So I'm not saying take it, and run with it necessarily, but this is what I am confident will be the opening day roster. I would be surprised if anything else is. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, because they've given a lot of time to Alex Dickerson in the outfield. He's the only one that I'm like a little bit uncertain with because he's the only outfielder that wasn't on the team last year that is out there. I mean, even Guillermo Heredia was on the roster last year throughout the World Series. And I'm not saying that's the only, thing that you're going to need. But, in terms of, left-handed pitching, you're looking at the green there. Sean Newcomb's the only kind of outlier because obviously Matzik, A.J. Minter, Will Smith are going to be on there. Sean Newcomb's the only guy that you're like, he doesn't really fit. But left-handed pitching, I mean, you can't go in with, a lopsided – I mean, you can, but it's not a good idea to go in with a lopsided bullpen. You want a guy that can come in and fill up an inning if need be from the left side. And then you got the right side that's pretty stacked. I mean, you got – Kenley Jansen, who's a closer. You got Colin McHugh, who can be a closer. Tyler Thornburg, who's got good numbers when he's healthy. Darren O'Day, who we're all familiar with. And Spencer Strider on the back end of that. I think the bullpen looks good. The starting rotation, the only surprise there is that you got a 6th guy, but that's been a talking point all throughout spring training from the Braves themselves that, we might have a 6th guy. And, you're looking at that rotation. You're not going to have a 6-man rotation in every sense of the word. And what I mean by that is you might see Tucker get a spot start here and there to give everybody a rest day, keep everybody on schedule. But I don't see him pitching every 6th day. I don't see Max Fried pitching every 6th day. What I see there is a guy that can fill a few innings, right? I mean, we all know Tucker, struggled throughout the World Series last year. Or not throughout it, but in his appearance in the World Series. We all know that. And Kyle Wright may struggle. Waskari Noah may struggle. If you're going to bring in 2 young guys like that aren't necessarily established, you want a guy that can kind of come in and have long relief and competitive long relief. That's the important thing there. So I definitely think that's a surprise. But, I mean, there's no surprises to me in the infielders, outfielders. Not really. Dickerson, like I said, has gotten a lot of attention in spring training. I think he's going to probably play right field. To take over defense for Marcell Ozuna in left. You'll see Eddie take over left field and Adam in center. You may see Adam move left or right depending on when Acuna comes back, but that's how I see it. And I definitely think Guillermo Heredia is going to make the roster. With the infielders, I definitely think Matt Olson's a lock, Ozzy's a lock, Austin's obviously a lock, Dansby lock, Orlando Arcia. I mean, he's the most utility infielder that the Braves have, and that only makes sense to me. The three catchers, that's the only other thing that you could change if you wanted to. But I even think William Contreras is going to be plugged in to be a DH maybe somewhere along the way. So I like when I made this roster, I took into account, okay, who's a lock? We went through locks the other day, and I showed you, those graphics, and and it wasn't exactly complete as you can see, but there were guys on there that I thought were locks at the time that have been sent down to the minor leagues. Or have gotten injured. Luke Jackson got injured. Kyle Muller got sent down to the minor leagues. So it's not always so clear that that's what it's going to be. But there have been things that happened that guys got sent down to the minors, and I take them off the lock list. Those are the guys that I thought were locks because we need pitching, and then we picked up Kenley Jansen. Things changed, but that's how I see it right now. And we got a super chat, so I'm going to be quiet. And Johnny T says, let's go. Who do you have as team MVP, leader in home runs, RBI, stolen base, OPS, average, ERA, strikeouts, and an underrated player that will stand out this year? Man, that's a lot of questions in one super chat. But I'll gladly answer. Team MVP, I'm going Austin Riley. I thought he performed all throughout the year last year, up and down. I thought he did very well. Leader in home runs, I'm going to go Matt Olson. I think he's a pull hitter. I think that's his style. I think that's his type of play. RBIs, I'm gonna go Adam Duvall, and that's not really a revolutionary pick, but he was the RBI leader last year. I think if you include his entire year, including Miami, I think middle of the lineup, that guy can hit bombs. I think he's an RBI leader candidate. Stolen bases, I think the obvious answer would either be Acuna or Albies, depending on how healthy he is. I'm going Acuna there. OPS, I'll go Austin Riley there. I think he's going to continue to develop. Average, I think I'm going to go Eddie Rosario. I do. I think he's our best contact hitter. I think he's a guy that can get on base no matter what. I'll go Eddie Rosario in terms of average. ERA, I mean, it's got to be either Fried or Morton. For starters, I'm going to go Fried. Morton's probably a close second there, depending on who's healthy, who's not. Strikeouts, I'm going to go. Strikeouts, I think I'm going to go Fried as well. I think it's time for the young guy to take over completely. I'm going ERA and strikeouts Fried. In terms of the bullpen, I'll just focus on ERA for the bullpen because it's kind of hard to pick. For ERA, I'm gonna. Let me pull up this graphic again just so I have some kind of where I can see. In terms of bullpen and ERA, I'll go. That's tough because bullpen's kind of tough. I'll go Kenley. I'll go Kenley just because I think that's the obvious choice. It's not really a great choice, but it's a good choice. It's just not really a choice that would surprise anybody. I think that's what I'd go with. So good question, Johnny T. Thanks for giving me that. Thanks for feeding me that, and obviously thanks for giving me a super chat. I really do appreciate it. By the way, guys, if you want your question answered immediately, the only way to do it is by putting in a super chat. So thanks, Johnny T. Thanks for the contribution. I really do appreciate it. By the way, if you're not going to super chat, the way you can contribute is by liking the video down below. Really helps the algorithm, really helps get it out to a broader audience. I don't just say that it's true. It really does do that. So make sure to do that. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Every time we do the stream, we get new subscribers. So if you're new, if you've been watching me a couple times and you thought about subscribing, I'm talking to you. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated. And, of course, so when when we go live, it'll update your phone. It'll update wherever you got notifications set. And that's a great way to keep up with the channel. Of course, keep up with the Braves. So thanks for that again, Johnny T, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, opening day tomorrow. It's going to be a fun day. I'll be watching the game alongside you. And, of course, we will go live right after. I'll probably tune in again, just letting everybody know. I'll probably tune in again in about the 9th inning. I may put up that intro video and just have it sit there so you guys can go ahead and tune in. and I can be ready to go. I can be ready to go as soon as the game's pretty much over. But I'll be keeping score at the house, and we'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and tune back into the chat where I left off. All right. William Fulgham, what 3 go down when Acuna comes back and we drop the roster spots to 26? I kind of mentioned that, but I'll be glad to gloss over it again for sure. So looking at the roster as a whole, it's kind of hard. Like that's why I really put these colors in, because I think that kind of helps separate. So you got 2 outfielders. Acuna comes back. One of those guys is going down. To me, that's Alex Dickerson. So go ahead and put him on the mark. I think the obvious choices after that are William Contreras and Spencer Strider, because I think Spencer Strider does need some more time to develop in the minor leagues. It's not a knock on him. I mean, the dude's got great stuff. He's a great talent, but I think his time in the majors is going to be limited, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think he's just a filler for right now. He's going to get some good major league experience and then go back down. But beyond that, William Contreras is the obvious man left out. No reason to carry 3 catchers when you need pitching, and no reason to carry 3 catchers when you're limited, in utility players as well. So to me, unless they can make him into a more all-around utility player, which I don't think that's the goal. I think they're trying to find him a spot, period. I mean, I guess he could DH, but even then, I just have a lot of questions there. But those would be the 3 that I pick as of right now, William. It's a good question, by the way, but those are the 3 that I pick right now. No guarantees. Good to hear from you, Blake. You say, let me see. I'll go ahead and skip down a little bit. He said he rewatched 2.5 hours of the previous show last night. Well, you are a dedicated subscriber, and I do appreciate it. RLP says Eddie, Olson, Riley, Ozuna, Duvall, Ozzie, Darno, Dickerson, Swanson. That's your pick for the lineup. I'll go with that. No, that's my pick. Yeah, I think that was my pick for the lineup. So thanks for putting that in the chat, for laying it out for everybody. Really do appreciate it. DL says Fried legit could be a pro hitter if he worked on it full time. I think Fried was probably a pretty good hitter in high school, and before he got to the minors. I definitely think he put some more attention into that than a lot of other pitchers do. I mean, obviously, you don't just win a Silver Slugger by not trying, right? Like, he's obviously giving it attention. I definitely think he's more of a pro than a lot of other pitchers are. He's got more power than I think a lot of other pitchers do as well. So good point there. Blake says, Tyler, what's your favorite seat in the house for Truist? Right behind home plate. As an usher, I must know so we can get you VIP treatment. If you can get me VIP treatment, I don't care where the seat is, but let me know. We'll see what happens. I was supposed to go Saturday with some friends of mine, but it didn't work out. I got to go up to that golf tournament and get some interviews for you guys. So we'll find some point in the year. I know I'm going around my birthday in July, and I'll be up there as many times as I can. Saintsaholic, this is an old one, but I'll go ahead and read it because I appreciate the notion here. Says, hey, come on, man. There are 54 people watching and 19 likes. Like the video. It takes 2 seconds. Yeah, guys, you hear that? Like the video. It takes 2 seconds. 2. Appreciate that, Saintaholic. Jameson Meza, he says he got here late, but chop on. Appreciate you tuning in. Mark Perez, Tyler, be in snitch shoes. Who do you give the ball to in the bullpen for the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th? Well, I guess we'll look at it again. Let's take a look, shall we? Obviously, you're focusing purely on the yellow and green areas. If I'm going 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9, I'm hoping my starter gives me at least 6, but I'm just going with he didn't. I'll probably go Colin McHugh 6. I'll go AJ Minter 7, Tyler Matzik 8, I kind of rushed the gun there. Hang on a second. I'm going to go Colin McHugh 6. I'll go Tyler Matzik 7. Will Smith 8, Kenley Jansen 9, I think is the obvious choice, but the bullpen's going to fluctuate day to day. So, I mean, you could go Colin McHugh, AJ Minter, Tyler Matzik, Kenley Jansen. You could go, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and that's why this bullpen's so stacked, is there's so many different ways to go about it. Like, Sean Newcomb is going to struggle to find time in the pen. And I mean that with all due respect. He's going to struggle to find that time. But, I mean, when you got guys like that can cover 4 innings no problem, I don't see how that's not an advantage. But But yeah, I mean the bullpen's good, and then you start wondering where in the world is Kirby Yates going to fit in? Where in the world, where is that going to happen? Right? Like what would happen if we still had Luke Jackson? Like you have a lot of questions there. But I definitely think it's going to be something that Snit's going to have some fun putting together and some fun, talking about. And I think as the season progresses, we'll shift things around, see where people are comfortable and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it'll be a lefty-righty matchup decision as well. So there's a lot to consider. But if it's me, if you want my personal opinion, I'm going to go 6, I'll go Colin McHugh. 7, I'll go Tyler Matzik. 8, I'll go Will Smith. 9, I'll go Kenley Jansen. And it's really hard for me to leave A.J. Minter off that list. But I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of innings for these guys to cover because, you got, look at the starters. I mean, you got a lot of young starters. So there's going to be some times where those guys only go 4. And at that point, you're going to talk about, you're going to talk about filling up some innings. And I think that's where you're going to see Sean Newcomb, Tyler Thornburg, Darren O'Day, Spencer Strider. That's where you're going to see those guys. Now, when we cut down to 26-man, I think you lose one reliever. I'll either go Spencer Strider or Sean Newcomb there, depending on what side you feel more comfortable with. I think lefties are going to be more valuable, so I'm going to just assume we're going to send down Strider because I think he's a starter anyway, and I think they're going to want to develop him. But yeah, so if you're looking on the righty-lefty thing, if you're looking for multiple innings, and at that point you'll have Kenley Jansen, Colin McHugh, Tyler Thornburg, Darren O'Day, Matzik, Minter, Smith, and Newcomb. I think at that point it's a little bit easier to pick lefty-righty matchups and that sort of thing. But yeah, we have a lot of guys right now. I mean, and when you have a 28-man roster, it's just like that. Great question, by the way. I appreciate that, Mark Perez. Skylar Baker says I don't know if you're he or she, I'm so sorry, but they can't wait for opening day tomorrow. I want to sleep to 12 and wake up to live baseball. You're lucky because I have to be at work at 2. So I'm going to come home and take a nap, and I'll probably wake up, I'm going to say 3 or 4, and watch some good baseball, maybe catch some highlights of other games. But I'll keep an eye on, obviously I want to watch the Braves in its entirety. So we'll see what happens there. I got to do some work actually tomorrow at 3 or 4. I got to go film some stuff for the news station tomorrow night. So it's going to be a busy day tomorrow for me, but one that I'll enjoy for sure. And I hope you guys tune in so you can enjoy it alongside me. Blake Newsome, Tyler, do you watch Talking Baseball or John Boy's content? I watch a little bit of both. John Boy is probably my favorite there just because the dude's funny. He makes me laugh. Talking Baseball is pretty good, but they're both great YouTubers. Giraffe Neck Mark's pretty good. He's out there. I don't agree with most of his takes when it comes to the Mets, but it is what it is. But he's obviously a great content creator himself. Foolish Baseball, Atlanta guy, by the way, great content creator, puts out a lot of stuff that he puts a lot of time into, time that I wish I had, to tell you the truth. But all those guys are great. I mean, I'm a big YouTube guy anyway. I watch a lot of YouTube on the side. I don't watch myself, obviously, but I do watch a lot of baseball creators, and all those guys are great. RLP says, oh, sorry, I don't know what you're going there, buddy. I missed that. Tyler says, I saw an analyst say that if Jackson and Yates are healthy, the Braves bullpen would be one of... I got a super chat, but I'm going to finish this. Hang on a second. I saw an analyst say that if Jackson and Yates are healthy, the Braves bullpen will be one of the best of all time. He's not wrong. That analyst is not wrong at all. I definitely think that it's in competition to be one of the greatest of all time. It's hard to say the greatest. I mean, there's been some good ones. The Yankees, I remember, had a good one when I was back in the day. I definitely think they're in competition. I'm going to have to let you go because I got a super chat from Captain Spartan04. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. And he says, thank you for all I do. And he's ready for this season. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for super chatting. You don't know how much it helps. I'm superstitious and don't like to buy pitchers' jerseys because I think they'll fall off the face of the earth when I buy it. But should I buy Freed's? I think if there's one guy you could be confident on, it's Fried. Now, I will say, I bought a Soroka on discount, not right before, but the season prior, like the Christmas prior to that. The Braves Clubhouse store had like 50% off because they had they had to get rid of all the old jerseys before they put the Nike logo up here. And I bought one because I like the old jerseys anyway. and I bought one for I think 70, and it was like half off or something, and right around Christmas time. And then the next year, obviously, you know what happens. So, but yeah, I don't think you're going to have to worry about him falling off. I mean, I guess you could, I guess you could wait till he retires, but I wouldn't be so superstitious. I definitely think he's a guy you can bet on. And like Joe Mixon says right below this, buy buy Fried's jersey just for Game 6 alone. I completely agree. And all he did last year, if nothing else, you got a World Series Heroes jersey. I mean, how much did Dave Justice isn't a Hall of Famer, but he's the guy that, in a lot of ways brought you a World Series title in that last game. And a lot of people still wear Dave Justice jerseys. That's the way I look at it. I see you guys are commenting. I'm gonna have to go backwards because I've skipped a lot of people. Again, thank you for the super chats, by the way. Thank you for all of that. I really do appreciate it. I really do try to go a little bit more in depth when you guys super chat, just because, for obvious reasons. I don't have to explain that. Yeah, so thanks again for the super chats. Thank you to Captain Spartan. Thank you to Johnny T. All the guys that have super chatted tonight, really do appreciate it. It really helps me out a lot, contributing to the channel. Helps me be able to, and I know you guys think you're just putting money in my pocket. Every bit of dollar I get goes back into the channel in some way, whether it be in traveling costs, whether it be in going to the game and giving you guys coverage from the game, whatever it may be, I put it into the channel. Whether it be buying equipment, because I know you guys can't see it, but that webcam's a couple $100. The stream deck I'm right here with is a couple $100. The computer I bought last year was paid with super chat money. I really do buy equipment, lighting, all that stuff, and we're only going to grow. So remember, every time you donate, every time you contribute, it really does help the channel. It doesn't just pay me. Like, this is strictly for my own enjoyment. So I put it all back into the channel. So based on your guys' support is where that money goes. It's in a complete separate entity. It's like basically running a company. It's a complete separate thing. So anything you donate does go back into the channel, and I really do appreciate it. So with that said, let's move on. Again, thank you to those that super chatted. Thank you to those that are watching. By the way, guys, I'm going to go back on what that person said earlier, Saintaholic, what they said. There's 90 people watching, and I got 56 likes. Come on, guys, get it up. It takes 2 seconds. 2 seconds. But yeah, anyway, look, if you don't even like the video, I just appreciate you tuning in and talking to me. But yeah, I really do appreciate the likes. Helps out with the algorithm a ton. All right, so let's move on. Oren Griswold says he's very interested to see this rookie starting pitcher for the Reds against our lineup. They're pretty high on him. Yeah, isn't his last name Green, I want to say? I've seen a lot about him. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't follow the Reds super close. But I want to say his name's Green. Yeah, is it Hunter Green? Yeah, Hunter Green. So they're really high on this guy. I've seen all kinds of articles about him. I don't know if he's officially their opening day starter. I know he's one of their top prospects making the opening day roster. That I do know. Much like Spencer Strider, I think he's a little bit more developed, though. I'm curious to see what happens, too. I know he's got high velocity. I don't know, other than that, really what he's about. But I'm kind of wanting to go in blind a little bit. Like, I don't want to know everything. I want to see what he's got and see what he's able to do against, a lineup that is the Atlanta Braves that just won a World Series. That's quite the lineup to get your first start against, if that's the case. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm pretty interested to see what he's about too. So appreciate that comment. Robert Gall said, get enough super chats so Tyler can get a gold matching Lambo with Ronald Acuna. If I get a gold matching Lambo, I don't know what else I'll have to do in life, honestly. But I remember being at spring training a couple of years ago, and I want to say he had like a lime green Maserati or something. So it's like, how many cars do you need, man? Like, what's going on? Obviously, Cunha likes his bling, so we got to appreciate that. Jameson says he's so ready for opening day, and I am too. It's funny you say that, Jameson. I got this guy at work who I mentioned, I think, in the last stream. I talk about him a good bit. His name's Ernest. One of the best guys you'll ever meet. A great guy to talk to. Can talk your ear off, but I love him to death. He works with me alongside me. We do the same exact job. He's been there a little bit longer than me. Been there, I think, 25 years this year at my station. Great guy, by the way. Big baseball fan. Big San Francisco Giants fan. He was rooting for the Braves when it comes down to the Dodgers versus the Braves. I'll leave it that way. We see eye to eye on a lot of things. But he wants me to wear a baseball jersey because he wants to get a picture of me tomorrow. He's been talking all week long about how excited he is for opening day, which just drives up that hunger for me on opening day. Just makes me want opening day that much more because I keep hearing about it. And it's a good thing. I don't mind hearing about it. I like hearing about it. But yeah, I think I'm just as excited about it as you are, maybe even a little bit more so. But we'll see what happens on opening day. Hopefully the Braves give us a win and continue that excitement and gives us a reason to tune in tomorrow night, right? RLP says Contreras could be sent. Depends on who does better, it seems. I definitely think that's the case. I definitely think there's competition to be had across the utility players. I think that's why they're kind of not, they're giving Contreras opportunity to perform elsewhere. I don't think they fully trust him behind the plate, is what it seems like to me, because I don't think they would have signed Manny Pena if they did. But, I mean, that's me purely making an assumption from afar and with not talking to these guys and not knowing a lot. We'll see. Mark Scheimer says, hey, Tyler, do you think Double-A makes another late roster move? I don't see why he couldn't necessarily. I definitely think there's guys out there. I mean, y'all are going to think I'm dumb when I say this, but, Todd Frazier retired the other day because he didn't get signed. So there's definitely guys out there. You guys have mentioned Michael Conforto. You guys have, there's a lot of guys that are out there. I just don't know if he's going to be the guy to sign on to that. You guys have mentioned Johnny Cueto. There's been a bunch of guys out there that you guys have mentioned. Guys that at one time were good, guys that at one time, the Braves would have killed to have, but probably would have had to pay a fortune for. But it's whether or not they can still perform and be beneficial for the Braves. So I don't know if he's going to make another late roster move. I really don't know. I think at this point, I've told you multiple times, I think at this point he's just sprinkling in guys. And what I mean by that is like, the Alex Dickerson, the Brock Holt, the Tyler Thornburg, Phil Gosselin, guys like that weren't necessarily, huge moves at the time, but, were interesting moves, low cost, low risk. Some of them have worked out. Tyler Thornburg's obviously going to make the opening day roster, but some of them haven't. Brock Holt asked for his release. He thinks he can get more money elsewhere. By all means, go give it a shot. I definitely think that, that there's potential for that. But I don't think you're going to see another major late roster move. I think the next major move will likely be, it could happen before the deadline, but I think the next time the market's really going to open up for guys that can perform is going to be the trade deadline. And I think, anytime you get Double-A around a trade deadline, people are going to naturally go looking at it, right? And by the way, I have a little bit of not plans necessarily, but ideas for the trade deadline this year, depending on what I think could happen in it. I don't know if it's going to be as big of a deal as it was last year. To be honest with you, I didn't expect for it to be as big of a deal as it was last year. We went live, but we went live late in the day. I got a feeling we may go live, as it progresses, as the deadline gets closer. We very well may do it for like the first 2 or 3 hours leading up to the 4 o'clock deadline, in late July. So, or August, wherever it is. But yeah, we may do that. We may have some plans for that and don't know for sure. Don't want to tell you because I really don't know where we're going to go with that. But if we do, I'll be sure to let you know, but it's something to keep an eye out for. We got a lot planned for the channel. I full disclosure, I graduated in May and my time's going to open up a lot more once that happens, hopefully. And I'll be able to do a lot more just in general. So hopefully that can, kind of turn back on the channel as well. I try to give as much as I can to the channel anyway, but that's going to help naturally. Let me see. Richard Davis, people forget Luke Jackson was DA'd DFA'd for 3 times. Yeah, but I think Luke Jackson's also come around a bit. I think that his story is one of ultimately success. He's got a ring, if nothing else. Mark Scheimer, Enoa and Tucker make me scared when they are pitching. I get that to some degree because they're young. Kyle Wright, I'll even throw into there and with you. They make me a little worried. But I think that any young pitcher is going to make you worried. I don't think you can really hold that against them. I think if you had a veteran pitcher, like if Charlie Morton made you worried, that's when I think a conversation has got to be had. But Tucker and Kyle Wright, I think those guys are just going to have to grow. You're just going to have to give them the time to do it. And sometimes, you got to cut your losses early. Sometimes you got to just go ahead and give it up and move on. But I think the Braves are in a spot where they want to see what they have, and I don't blame them. And look, Kyle Wright, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but Kyle Wright very well may have a pretty decent first half, and the Braves decide, well, this is as hot as he's ever going to be. We're going to trade him. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case. I'm not, wishing that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he very well could become a trade piece if he does well. And, we'll see what happens, but, it'll be interesting. I don't know at the end of the day, but, I guess, when it comes to making you scared, just remember they're growing. And if it's a regular season game, just remember it's a regular season game. It's not a postseason game, and try to move on past it. Jameson says, cannot wait for tomorrow. Ceremonies are going to be off the chain. I don't think there is I want to say the ring ceremony Saturday. I want to say it is because that's the game I was planning on going to, but I'm not entirely sure. Red Leg says, I'm a Reds fan, but the Braves have always been my second favorite team, so pretty cool. Well, Red Legs, I'll actually be honest with you. If you check out my channel, there is some interviews with some former Reds on there. Daryl Cheney, Dave Bristol, Raleigh Eastwick is on there, and I think there's a few others. But you just go looking through the interview playlist, and you'll find them. But yeah, they're pretty good interviews. I suggest you go look at them. I know a lot of former Reds. To be honest with you, I probably know just as many former Reds as I do former Braves. So the Reds are. Because of that, the Reds have kind of become a team I focus on a little bit. I know, obviously I feel bad for you guys right now because you guys kind of, obviously sold Jesse Winker off and got rid of a lot of your stars when I thought you could have made a run. But, I definitely think that the Reds are up there, and they're definitely, a team that I keep an eye on just because of how much how many of the former players I know and that kind of thing. And I know a lot of Reds fans as well. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you'll subscribe because we do have more Braves content coming out, but that doesn't mean we don't have more Reds content coming out as well. I will see some of those guys this weekend, actually, some of those former Reds. Jameson says, says Huascar Noah's come back from... He hasn't been the same since he came back. Okay, so Huascar hasn't been the same since he came back. It seems like everything he throws is hittable. Yeah, but I mean... It's a new year, and I know that's not necessarily, the end-all, be-all to fix everything and all that, but it is a new year. I think you have to take that into account, and he's had more time to heal. He's had more time to really come back on what he used to be, and we'll see what he does with it, but that's all we can really, look forward to. Hitman says, Luke Jackson's contract is up at the end of the year. Do I think, will we re-sign him? Yeah, so he's a part of that timetable. He, Swanson, Duvall, and Heredia are all up in the air. And I think it's interesting because you got a lot of pitching in the minor leagues. If I'm honest with you, I think they likely will sign Jackson because I don't think he's going to cost that much. And I think he's a pretty good reliever if he's healthy, and he didn't get to pitch this year. And that's not anything to do with him. He's also a part of the World Series team. I mean, and whether or not you think that should be a factor, it's probably a factor. Heredia, he signed a 1-year deal for $1 million. If the Braves want him back, he's going to be back. Swanson is interesting because you have Braden Shoemake down below. Duvall's interesting because you got Drew Waters in the waiting. You got Michael Harris in the waiting. He's probably going to get a pretty good deal, I would assume. I mean, if any other team is smart, they're going to pick him up unless he just wants to be a Brave. But it's going to be interesting for sure. I think it would be nice if we got all of those guys back. I'd like to, at least for another year, I honestly, because I think Michael Harris is a couple years away. I honestly don't know how confident I am that Drew Waters can put up the numbers that everybody's hoping he does, and I'm not saying that with any disrespect. I just don't know if he's there yet. But in terms of Luke Jackson, if I had to bet right now, I would probably put my money on he's coming back, just because I think when you take a year away from him on the back end, and it's because he's been overworked on his arm, it's not really fair to not give him that deal. But at the same, like, if I honestly, like right now, I just don't see how they don't do it, and it's because I think you're going to get him at low cost. And I mean, honestly, look at your bullpen right now. Look at the yellow and green, right? I mean, at the end of the day, is if he costs, let's just say if he costs $6 million, because I think that's what we paid him last time. Let's just say he costs $6 million for 2 years. Is that better than Sean Newcomb? Is that better than Darren O'Day? I mean, like, can you live with that? I can. I think it makes sense. And I'm not saying it's going to happen that way. I just think it makes sense. And we're talking about something that's a year away. So we'll see. It depends also on how many other teams want him and how many other teams, are vying for him. I definitely think he's going to want to be a Brave. I don't see why he wouldn't be. But we'll see. Let me see. A lot of people are saying Newcomb scares me. That's from Mark Scheimer. And I've seen some other people say it as well. So, I definitely think Newcomb has some work to do to get the fans back on his side for sure. But that's not necessarily his fault. I definitely think he's got some room to improve. I mean, he's declined a lot. I was at the game where he almost threw the no-hitter versus the Dodgers. I was actually in the outfield seats for that one, down the left field line. I remember it vividly. I thought this is the start of something new, to quote High School Musical. But I really thought that was going to be the case, and it just never really got any better than that. And in fact, it kind of plummeted in a way. So I'm hoping that he can at least be a surprise, a pleasant surprise in the bullpen. That's kind of what I'm hoping for Sean Newcomb. But like Red Leg says, you can never have too many lefties, and that's what I think has kept him around. But that's not everything. We got to see some results at some point. And he got arbitration this year. He got paid this year. So hopefully he earns his keep. Dante Ramirez says Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Inoa are going to carry the pitching. What about Ian Anderson? Dante, what about Ian? I think Ian could do it. We'll see what happens. But I'm interested in starting pitching because this is like the first year in 2 or 3 years that we've actually had a full staff. Like last year, we did not have a full staff. We had Fried, Inoa, and Morton, but Morton wasn't operating on all cylinders. Fried wasn't really operating on all cylinders. And then once they were, Inoa was hurt. Anderson got hurt. We just had a lot of question marks. This is the first year where we actually have 6 guys that I think could very well, be starters, and rotate out and cover those innings when other years I didn't think we could. And that's what I feel comfortable about. We don't have any major injuries, at least as of right now, and hopefully that'll be the case as we go forward. But I think it's a great thing that Charlie Morton's already back. With a broken leg, there was a big question mark there. But, I mean, I definitely think this is the first year I've been, covering the Braves that I felt comfortable with the pitching staff as a whole. Because in 2020, everything happened. It felt like everything happened in 2020. When Soroka went down, it felt like the world shook and we were done. It felt like that was the final nail in the coffin. Obviously, it wasn't. They made do. Fried kind of came out of nowhere and became the ace. But, this is the first year that I felt, the Braves are complete. And, last year, the starting rotation was all right. Obviously, the lineup was good. The bench was good. But the bullpen for a lot of the year was like, I don't know. And then we got to the postseason. Obviously, they came around and were better than they ever were. But, this is the first year where I feel like we have a complete team. A team that could repeat and a team that could win throughout the regular season, which, we obviously won the World Series last year, but we weren't the best team in baseball throughout the entire year. I think we all know that. This is a year that I think we could do both. And we'll see what happens, but that's how I view it right now. Richard Davis says, I don't really want Acuna playing center field. I don't think he's going to either. I know Duvall doesn't really want to play center field. I know he mentioned that last year. It was taking a lot out of him. I don't know how serious that is personally. I don't know. I know he's he's diabetic and there's that going for it and all, but I don't know how serious it is. I like Duvall in center. I think he's a really good outfielder. I think he's made plays. He's reached over the fence. He's made great plays. I don't know why you wouldn't put him in center field. And if he just doesn't want to do it, that's one thing. But if he's willing, I think he's a great center fielder. I don't think you want to push Acuna further than you have to, especially early on. But we'll see how it goes. But It is what it is. So Jeff Berry says Acuna won't be playing until the end of April, start of March. Probably so. I think you might see him pinch hit a little earlier than that. He's on the 10-day IL right now, so he will be on the roster, I think, but you may not see him actually play for a while. That I agree with. Dante said, when is opening day? Tomorrow. That's funny. Let me see. Let me see. All right, I got to kind of skip over a lot of you guys. Sorry. Jordan Baldovi says, aloha. I love that, by the way. I absolutely love that. Says, aloha, Tyler. Say the Braves repeat as champs. Dansby has about the same numbers like last year. Do you think they re-sign him? I got this question a lot. Never quite pitched that way, if he has the same numbers as last year. I think Dansby Swanson is a guy that they're going to want to bring back. And I know I talked about Braden Shoemaker a good bit in this, probably more than I ever have before. Dansby's making $10 million this year. If he wants $10 million next year, I give it to him. Right? If he wants $10 million, let's say they offer him a $50 million contract for 5 years. I give that to him. He's young enough. He improves every year. I think that's fair. Now, if he wants $100 million for 5 years, I'm going to, raise him. I don't think he's worth that. I don't know if he's a $20 million guy for 5 years. If he wants $20 million across 3 for 60, okay, that conversation can be had. But I don't know that, I think that's the kind of conversations you're going to have with him. Does he want long term or does he want a lot of money up front? And look, his average has climbed just about every year. If you look at it, he's gotten significantly more homers every year. I think the dude could be really good. From 2019, he had 17 homers. In 2021, he had 27. So he got 10 more homers from one complete year to the next complete year. Obviously more at bats and that kind of thing, but he did a lot better. I think we all can agree. He's got a clutch factor about him. He's a local guy. He went to Marietta High School. There's a guy there, that wants to be in Atlanta, has made it clear that he wants to be in Atlanta, but that doesn't always mean everything. So we'll see how it goes. Nobody's safe, I think. Now that we know Freddie Freeman wasn't safe, nobody's safe. But I think it'd be smart to get him. I don't think Braden Shoemaker's ready to go next year if I had to put money on it. Robert Gall with another super chat. Appreciate it, man. Can we get a full World Series prediction from you with number of games as well? Now, I am not Trevor Plouffe. I am not. I did not predict the Braves at Astros. Oh, man. I've seen... Oh, geez. I haven't thought that far ahead, to tell you the truth. I'll go Braves just because, for obvious reasons, but I'll go Braves, and I'll give reasoning for that. I'll go Braves over. I just don't know about the American League. The Astros lost a lot, didn't they? Who did the Astros beat last year? Let me look at last year. Y'all notice he super chatted, so I'm taking time to look at this. Let me see. It's tough. I think the White Sox could be pretty good. They lost to the Astros last year. I think they're a little bit more on the rise than the Astros are. The Dodgers are going to be tough to get around this year. I think the Giants have kind of taken a step back on the National League side. I'm trying to think. The Padres have taken a bit of a step up. They tanked last year. Not to say they do it again, but I think that it's really hard to say because it's 12 teams and that kind of thing. Anything can happen once you get to a postseason. I'm going to go Braves over White Sox in 6. Very could happen, could not happen. I see the Braves-Rays comments. They were probably my next one. That's from Jake Hobby. I thought about that. Blue Jays did load up. That's from Captain Spartan. That's true. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'm going to go Braves, White Sox in 6. We'll see what happens, I guess. It's such a long way away that it's hard to tell, but I'm going to have to go backwards, unfortunately. I've skipped a lot of people. Remember, guys, Super Chats is how you do it. Thanks to Robert Gall, thanks to Captain Spartan, thanks to Johnny T, all those guys that have Super Chatted. I really do appreciate it. And, like Dante Ramirez says, sub if you like the content. Let me see. Dwight Cornell, Tyler, do you think the Reds will be good this year? Red Legs, I'm sorry out there, but no. I think they've sold. I think they know they're not going to be good this year. Obviously, they got rid of their best hitter right now in Jesse Winker. All respect to Joey Votto. Jesse Winker had a great year last year, and they sold him. Now, granted, he might be a one and done, but I just don't think they want to compete. I don't think they would have sold him off. I don't think they would have sold everybody else off if they didn't do that. But we'll see. Everybody's got a score prediction tomorrow. I'll go Braves 5-2. Dante says he'll go Braves 6-3. He also says subscribe if you like it. Jameson says Braves 6, Reds 2. I'm going to go... Freed's pitching tomorrow, so I don't think you're going to score off him very much. I'll give you one run if you're the Reds. All Freed. Who's their opening day starter? Is it Green or is it somebody else? Because I don't know that. I'm going to just assume. I don't know who it is. I think the lineup's good enough to give you 4 or 5. I'll go 5-1 Braves. And we'll see what happens there. AC Gonzalez, I just realized that the Reds pitcher is named Hunter Green. Yep. Red Legs, I think Lodolo is better. Their number 2 prospect. I say Braves 7-3. Reds bullpen gets hammered. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Jameson Meza says, chop up those likes. And just like Sanaholic said earlier, there's 107 people watching and only 77 likes. There's like 30 or 40 of y'all out there that aren't liking the video. Do it. Like the video. It takes 2 seconds, as they said. Moving on. Dante Ramirez is trying to get it to 100. So if we get it to 100, I guess Dante Ramirez is going to super chat. Just kidding. Nathan Landtrip, glad Ozuna is back and healthy. Seems like the players are excited to have him back. Good to see an athlete prevail from false narratives from the media. So here's the thing, right? Like, I think a lot of people have mentioned or have had their opinion on Marcell Ozuna. To tell you the truth, I purposefully never talk about it. I just don't. And when I do, I'm very vague on purpose because I really like to keep it to baseball as much as I can. I don't think there's a lot of time in the world to be focused on other people's family drama, to tell you the truth. And that's just why I don't comment on stuff like that a whole lot, unless it's just, it's impacting the team terribly. Like, every time I talk about Ozuna's incident last year, I refer to it just like that, an incident, and I move on. But based on what you're saying, I will comment on it real quick, and I'll just say that, yeah, it's great to see him prevail from it. Hopefully it's something in the past that gets left in the past and we can move on. I'm rooting for Marcell Ozuna. I want him to be successful. He's on the Braves. He's going to impact the team. And I think it's important for him to have a good year and to have a good start. I mentioned that last time, last stream. I think it's important for 2 guys in particular on the offensive side of things to have good starts. And they are Matt Olson, for obvious reasons, and on the flip side of that, Marcell Ozuna for more obvious reasons. I think he's kind of going to have to win the fan base back in a way, at least some of the fan base, and prove that he's ready to go. I mean, look, this is a dude that is in shape. He lost weight. He won the Dominican League MVP. I mean, he's been doing what he can on the outside of MLB to get back in. And he went through all of what he was supposed to go through, all of the, the counseling, all of that. I think it's time to move on from it. Much like I said, it's time to move on from the Freddie Freeman conversations. It's time to move on from the Marcell Ozuna conversations about last year and look to the future. Thanks for the comment. I do appreciate it. And, I completely agree with you. Nathan also says that Cueto signed. I didn't see that. I don't know when that happened. I haven't been really keeping a big eye on the free agency market because, to be honest with you, I thought the Braves were done, and so far I've been right. I mean, I still think you might see some sprinkling in but nothing major. Yeah, Richard Davis, good point. I know we were talking about Conforto earlier. He says Conforto turned down like 15 or 19 million the other day, so Atlanta will be out on him. Conforto's not worth 15 million in my book. I looked up his stats. The average isn't there. The home runs aren't there. It just doesn't make sense to me, for the Braves at least. I just don't get it. I mean, another team that spends money a lot, hey, Dodgers, they might go get him. But for me, I just don't think it's smart. I just don't. I mean, he's used to that New York money. Let New York pay him. Braves aren't going to do it. AC Gonzalez says there could be some moves when the roster is reduced to 26. I definitely think so. I think, at that point it really reduces to 25 because you got Acuna coming back and that's an automatic spot there. So you got to figure out 3 guys you're going to send down. But you may see some improvements across rosters as well. You might see the Braves trade, some of those pieces that get sent down, but not Spencer Strider. Tyler says, I know it's far away, but when do you think the Braves playoff window is over? Tyler, a good way to look at that, and I know I overuse this graphic, but I absolutely love this graphic. The timetable. Always refer back to the timetable. You got Matt Olson forever, it seems, right? You got him till 2030. I mean, they're pretty set for a long time. I mean, they're going to get prime Matt Olson at least till 2027, I would say. You're going to get prime Ronald Acuna till 2028 at least, or 29 rather. And I think you'll extend him, hopefully. Albies, you got him till 28. That's prime Ozzy Albies. You're going to see some of the best years of his career. You got Enoa and Anderson till 26 or 27. You got Webb, Riley, Toussaint, and Ozuna. So Ozuna, Riley are your major factors there. I mean, they're set for at least, I'd say a decade, man. I think they're going to be competitive for a long time. I'm not going to say they're going to win the division every year because I think that's going to be really hard to do, but they are going to be competitive, man. And they're going to be fun to watch for a very long time. You're asking me when the playoff window is going to be over. I'm asking you, how is it going to end? I think their goal is to be competitive every year. And that's what I think they've set themselves up for. Because then you look at the minors, right? Like our minors aren't fully stacked, but you got Michael Harris. You got, we talked about some of them earlier. Bryce Elder, Spencer Strider's another guy. Guys that are signed for seemingly 6 or 7 years at least. Those are guys that are going to contribute to the future of the Braves. So I think a lot of people focus just on the team that's on the field right now, but you got to realize there's a lot more. It is an organization. It is a business. You're going to see players leave and go to other teams, but the Braves as a whole will still be running. That machine will still be going. And I'm not saying you're going to lose your favorite player, but you're going to see some turnover. It just is what it is. But I think that the Braves have so much potential for the next, decade at least, that, I think they're going to be competitive every year. And when you're competitive, any year is a playoff window. And, we saw that in the 90s and the early 2000s. I think you're about to set up for another one of those. Maybe not 14 straight, because to be honest with you, the Braves kind of got lucky on the 14 straight in some regard. And that's something that I don't think will ever be done again. But I think, this year they're going to be very competitive. If the team they had last year showed us anything, it's that anytime you're competitive, you can win. You can win in the postseason. And we'll see how it goes. But, it's going to be fun to watch for the next few years. And I've chosen quite the time to do this YouTube channel because I'm right in the heart of it. And I'm happy to be here. Trinity Clark tuning in says, what's up, Tyler? They can't wait for tomorrow. Appreciate it. Joey Fox asks, what stadiums for MLB have you been to? Let me look around the room. I've been to both New York, so that's 2. Baltimore, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Chicago, Boston, obviously Atlanta. Both Turner Field and Truist, if you want to count it. That's 8 cities. That's 8 ballparks, 8 teams. The Philadelphia, Chicago White Sox, Houston, so that's 11. I think I've been to about 16. I'm not going to get them all in here, but I think it's about 16. I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it's 16. Cleveland, Cincinnati, so that's 13. I can't name them all, unfortunately, because I've been to a bunch of them. At Tampa, Tropicana Field, Miami, so that's 15. Texas Rangers, so that's 16. So that's 16. I think I've been to more than that too. So I'm sure I'm missing something along the way, but I think Colorado, if you want to include that. I kind of passed by that. I didn't really stop at the stadium. But yeah, I've been to a bunch, man. I've been to like 17, I think. But it's hard to say. We'll see. Um, Richard Davis, people have to understand how the Braves work. They are cheap, good or bad. That's how they are. They have been spending more the past 2 years. They want the good young players. I'll kind of agree with you. I don't think cheap is the right word. I'm more so of the mindset that the Braves are responsible with their money as opposed to the Dodgers. The past 2 years, sure, but the years before that, they were, not. I hate to say that they were, they were tanking, but they were rebuilding, and I hate the word tanking because it puts a negative connotation on it. And look, you can say what you want about the teams that are spending $30 million this year. I think that's a bit ridiculous, if I'm honest with you. But I'm looking at the top 10. The Braves are ninth in MLB in payroll. You can call them cheap, but there's 21 other teams that are cheaper. And guess what? Houston's behind them. Toronto was behind them. St. Louis is behind them. The Giants are behind them. The teams that are above them. Dodgers are number 1. The Mets are number 2. What did the Mets do with that money last year? Not a thing. What did the Dodgers do? Not win a World Series. What did Philadelphia do? Not win the division. What did Boston do? Not get to the World Series. White Sox, not the World Series. Padres tanked halfway through the season. LA Angels. I think we all know that. So you can call them cheap, but I think they're more responsible, and it is what it is. So I appreciate the comment there, Richard, but I don't think cheap is the right word. Captain Spartan, hopefully when we do trade Kyle Wright, we can also... Y'all are terrible. Hopefully when we do trade Kyle Wright, we can also move on from Sean Newcomb. You're just assuming we're going to trade Kyle Wright. All right, we'll go with it. We'll see. But, I'm not going to bet on that. Let me see. Sorry, guys. I'm looking. If Wright has a good year, no, they will not trade him. Who are they going to get? The Braves aren't going to sign a $200 million pitcher. I think if they wanted to trade for maybe not even bullpen help, I think they could get a pretty decent starter for Kyle Wright and Sean Newcomb. And you put a package together, I think they could do something. But the market also opens up a lot more, Richard, at the deadline. You're not going to do that right now. But they're not going to go get DeGrom. They're not going to go get somebody like that. But I think they could go get somebody. I thought they could go get Michael Pineda I guess when he was still on the free agency market. But, it just didn't happen. I guess the market's just not there. But I think, again, the market opens up at the deadline because teams start realizing they're not going to compete. They start selling. They start getting prospects back and that kind of thing. Look at what the Cubs did last year. We got Jock Peterson from the Cubs. The White Sox got Kimbrel from the Cubs. The Yankees got Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs. The Giants got Chris Bryant from the Cubs. The Mets, I think last year, got Javi Baez from the Cubs. There's teams that do that. And when they realize they're not going to compete, when they realize their window's gone, they start trading away. And I think the market naturally opens up when that happens. So we'll see. But Trinity Clark, hey Tyler, what score do you have for the game tomorrow? I think we win 4-2. And do you think we're going to see championship rings tomorrow? I think that's Saturday. The rings are on Saturday. But I said it earlier, but 5-1 Braves is what I'm going with. 4-2 is not a bad guess, but it's just a random game, so it's hard to tell. Let me see. Chop Shop says, will be disappointing if they allow Ozuna to play outfield. Disappointing's hard. He's a former Gold Glover, but I get your point. I would like to see Dickerson out there. By the way, guys, we are extremely close to 100 likes. If you guys want to go ahead and pass that benchmark, would really appreciate it. Go ahead and like the video and, of course, subscribe if you're just tuning in. Let's see. Vincent Patrick says, let's go all out for Trey Turner next year instead. Look, I would love it if we got Trey Turner. I would absolutely love it if we got Trey Turner. But I got a feeling the Dodgers are going to want to bring him back, I would think. But we'll see. Richard Davis says they need to give Swanson a 5-year for $75. I think that's not terrible. If it was so you're looking at what, $20 million a year ish, kind of. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I wouldn't mind that necessarily. I definitely think the length there would be beneficial to the Braves. I don't know what that. So you're looking at about $15 million a year. That's not bad at all. I agree with that. That I can get with. But I don't think he's a $20 million player. I think he's a 15, and I don't think that's bad at all. Jameson says, or Jesus, sorry, not really. Oh, sorry. Y'all are having a conversation in the chat. Don't mind that at all. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. A lot of you guys are just tuning in, and I really do appreciate it. Let me see. Got a lot of you guys tuning in late, and I gotta do this kind of quick. Sorry, guys. All right, here we go. All right, Bryce Johnson says he's picking Braves 7, Reds 1. Maley is starting tomorrow. So I think the Braves can score on him, and if not, they, like Redleg said earlier, they'll hammer the bullpen. I don't see the Braves bullpen, having trouble. Jameson Taylor is a brand new subscriber. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hopefully you'll tune in tomorrow night. Hopefully you'll be around for the long haul. We do stuff pretty regularly. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a subscriber. Nathan Lantrip, I've been listening to you for a while. Always love the content, man. Keep it up. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I try to give you guys good content on the regular. By the way, thanks for 100 likes. We like that. We really do appreciate that. And obviously, thanks to you guys for tuning into the channel. I really do appreciate the likes and appreciate super chats, appreciate the views, all that stuff. And remember, all the money you donate and give in super chats always goes back to the channel in some way, form, or fashion. Hitman says, did you see Albert Pujols is getting a divorce after 22 years? Guys, I just said I don't comment on family drama when it comes to players. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I'm going to leave it at that on that one. Cueto's going to the White Sox. That's fairly interesting. I'm not exactly here's the thing. Like, Johnny Cueto's good. I just don't think he's. I don't know. I think he's past his prime. I think he's a back end of the rotation guy, maybe. But I think when you start counting on him to carry a team, that's kind of when you start worrying. He would have been okay. I would have been okay if the Braves got him. I didn't want to give him any major check. So we'll see. AC Gonzalez. Conforto also cost a draft pick because of the qualifying offer, correct? I believe that's the case, which probably impacted, again, why the Braves didn't want it. But I think that it would be dumb to pick up Conforto. Guys, I'm sorry to skip you. I'm really sorry to skip all these people that are waiting in line. But I have a friend that just decided to tune in and give me all caps and text messages. And if I don't acknowledge this person, she's going to give me... Apparently, she's going to beat me up, according to these text messages. She has subscribed and she liked the video. Ashley Williams, hello. Now leave me alone so I can do my work. Thank you. All right. Moving on from that, Miguel Frica. It seems that Acuna and Freeman did not like each other. Acuna was explaining in an interview in Spanish. He said Freeman gave him a hard time at the beginning of his career. Miguel, it's locker room stuff. I just don't like to get into stuff like that. It's just not really my thing. Because at the end of the day, there's always two sides to every story like that. There's always that situation. And on top of that, I would say that, Freeman was also the locker room leader, so it's hard to say. I mean, we'll see what time says. But that's none of my business as far as I'm concerned. Derek Adams, do you think Matt Olson can have an MVP season this year in his first season after the Braves lost Freddie? I think Matt Olson can have an MVP season any year. But I don't see why that would change in Atlanta. DL, guys will get older, more expensive, then we have to pray for another top prospect class, which is doubtful. I wouldn't say doubtful. I mean, we've done it before. I definitely think, the idea, it takes time to get a top prospect class. To get a top prospect class, you kind of have to, Mm. Hang on a second, guys. Sorry. To get a top prospect class, you kind of have to tank, right? That's the only way to really do it. William Fogan, we got a super chat. Appreciate that. Always appreciate talking to William. He's one of the biggest supporters of the channel. Matt Olson hitting 50 bombs? Question mark. Thoughts? I would put more money on 45. That's about where I am comfortable with, to tell you the truth. I think he's definitely going to get more in Atlanta. I think, the right field, the dimensions aren't exactly just a steep difference necessarily, but I definitely think right field is better for left-handers, which makes me wonder what's Freddie going to do in LA. But we'll see. I don't know for sure, but yeah, I definitely would. I would put money on 45 because he had 39 last year. I definitely would put money on 45. Let me see. Sorry, guys. Every time there's a super chat, I get so mixed up. Yeah, Redleg says another thing. Matt Olson played in Oakland. They got a huge stadium and it's dry. He's going to hit a lot more home runs in Atlanta. I do agree with that. I think 45's I think 45 is something that can happen. 45 is a lot more attainable and something that if I was going to gamble on it, I put 45. 50 is kind of a hard one to convince people that it could happen. By the way, guys, I believe we've been going for like an hour 40, so I appreciate you guys staying around and tuning in. Obviously, a big day tomorrow, and obviously, it's fun to talk about. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for super chatting, thanks for liking. We'll be on here till about 11, and then I'm going to get off. And if I'm just going to be bluntly honest with you, I have work at 2, but I bought MLB The Show yesterday, and I've yet to play it, so we're going to go play MLB The Show at 11 o'clock. So I'm going to wrap up then. So if you want your questions answered, the best thing I can tell you is super chat. That's the only way I can really do it and guarantee you get a response. Braden Martin, let's go Braves. Repeat as World Series champions? Maybe. Josh Gillum, none of these teams won the World Series last year either. We should be top 3 in payroll. We should be. I definitely think that we could be, but I think because the Braves are able to, not promise, but, guarantee a playoff run in some regard, it's a lot easier to convince players to take less money. And that's what I think that the Freddie Freeman disagreement where that was at, because, Freeman, do you want to compete on the Braves? Do you want to be a World Series team, or do you want you to get paid alone? And I think that's the question there. The Braves make smart decisions, and, the game of baseball is evolving. Players don't stay on one team anymore, and teams don't commit to players anymore, at least their own, it doesn't seem, because, you see major contracts, major big name contracts for Bryce Harper, but he had to switch teams. You see the only one I can think of that got a major contract on his own team in the past 5 years, aside from Mike Trout, was Fernando Tatis Jr., and Fernando Tatis Jr. is younger than me, and I'm only 20, I'm 22, he's right around my age. So I think, we're losing the idea that teams stay with one player. And with that, you're losing the commitment from teams to stay with that one player. And it just is what it is. Players want money. They're not going to always make it on the team they got drafted with. So with that, the Braves don't necessarily have to make that commitment either. And they're able to work around it. And I don't think it's being cheap. I think it's more so being responsible and making good decisions. I mean, look at the deadline last year. They spent some money, but they got guys that filled the need better than, I think one major player would have. They got 3 or 4 guys that performed and made an impact when one guy could not have done that. Think about the impact Eddie Rosario made, right? But combine that with the impact that he made, Jorge Soler made, Jock Peterson made. You do that as opposed to one guy in the lineup, it naturally is going to do better. Now put that in the entire team perspective, right? I mean, just for a second, you got guys on here who don't get paid a whole lot. Max Fried isn't getting paid a ton. Charlie Morton's not getting paid that much. Ian Anderson, again, I think he's making league minimum. Kyle Wright, league minimum. Waskari Noah, maybe less than $1 million. Tucker Davidson, league minimum. Kenley Jansen, $16 million. Colin McHugh, not that much. Tyler Thornburg, less than $1 million. Darren O'Day, less than $1 million. Spencer Strider, less than $1 million. Matzik, only a few million. Minter, probably only a few million. I think he hit arbitration this year. Will Smith's making pretty good money. I think he's making $24 million across 3 years, so probably $8 million. Newcomb, probably 2 or 3 million maybe. Darno, I think he's making $8 million. Pena's making $8 million across 2 years. Contreras, less than $1 million. Matt Olson, we all know his deal. Ozzy Albies making like $7 million a year. Austin Riley, I want to say he's making finally $1 million this year. With the new raises, it's probably a little bit more. But what I'm saying here is that the Braves are able to take this entire team and pay them hardly anything. And you can criticize that if you want to call it cheap, but at the end of the day, I think it's smart because guess what? If they do well with the Braves, they can move on and do better things in the future, or the Braves can pay them. They can make that decision later on. But I think it's smart. And, it's cheap, but it's smart. It's being smart cheap. It's not being, stupid cheap. Stupid cheap is what these teams that are paying $30 million are doing. That's ridiculous. The Braves are in the top 10, and they won a World Series at number 9. So I respect it, personally. Redleg says he hates the Yankees and he hates the Dodgers. I'll just leave it at that. Nathan says, can you please replace Jake Mastriani on Locked On Braves? LOL. I'll be honest with you, I don't know who that is. What is Locked On Braves? Does anybody know who that is? I apologize, but I don't. What's up, Mark? Spook, that guy, that's my coworker. What's going on, Mark? Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I'm making the shift a little easier to go through. Josh Gillum says, give me Correa over Turner. I'll be honest with you, I'm a Turner guy. I like speed, and he does that. I think he's a guy that, attacks from all aspects. He can play outfield. He can play shortstop. He can hit. He can hit for power. He can get base hits. He's a lot like Rosario, just faster. And I think he's a little bit more of an elite player, obviously. But yeah, I take Turner. And Correa comes with a little bit of baggage. I don't really mind that necessarily. But in terms of pure play, I know Correa probably gets more attention, but I'm a Turner guy all day long. Let me see. Jameson wants to know my favorite football team in college. Unfortunately, right now it's Florida State. In the NFL, unfortunately, even more unfortunately, it's the Falcons. So in the NFL, I'm more of a fantasy player than I am an actual fan of a team, naturally, just because of who we have here in Atlanta. And they're in obviously a rebuild stage and need to be in a rebuild stage. But hopefully they do it the right way. But in terms of college, I think Florida State, is on the way back up, hopefully. Josh Gillum says, $20 million a year for Swanson. Yeah, right. I didn't say $20 million a year. I said $15 million a year. That's a little bit more doable. Across 5 is not that bad. He does have the same age as Freeman, as Corey says, but that's the offer I would give him because he has improved. I think even 12 would be fine. 5 years, 75 is not terrible for a guy like Swanson. And if you want to keep him, long term, if you want to keep that core in the infield, I think it's the deal that's going to have to be made. I definitely think he's going to have to get some kind of bump. But if he wants to be a Brave, he'll be a Brave, and I'm going to stick with that. But like I said a little earlier, if Freddie showed us anything, no one's safe. And that is what it is. Hi, Ashley. I noticed you. Red Legs, I predict 45-plus home runs for Matt Olson. That's what I said. 45 is where I kind of put my hat there. Jason Morrow, what do you think Olson's numbers will look like this year? I'm going to go a little higher on the average because they're taking away the shift, or they're limiting the shift. I think that's kind of the case. With that, obviously, they're limiting the shift. So I'm going higher average, and I'll go 45 homers if that's what you're looking for. On base percentage might go a little up because he's going to get some protection behind him. I think all his numbers are going to take a little bit of a boost because he's moving, no disrespect to Oakland, but he's moving from the A's to the Braves. So naturally, he's going to get more protection. He's going to get a more open field for his average, and I think he'll get a little bit more walks too. So we'll see how it goes, but I think he's going to have a pretty good year. All right, Wolfman needs some advice, you guys. Grew up watching games on TBS, came back diehard Braves fan in 2017. Problem now is I don't know where to watch the games. Sorry, I can't help you there. I guess the Bally app is the best way I can put it, but that's all dependent on your cable provider, so I really don't know. Sorry about it, man. Josh Gillum, we got the deepest lineup in MLB, in my opinion. I agree. Up and down, complete. I definitely think the Dodgers are comparable, but I would definitely agree they're at least the top two. Richard Davis, Braves score over 10 in all 4 games. Well, I'll say this. I'll say this about the first 2 series. By the way, guys, get your comments in now. Get your super chats in now because I am wrapping up at 11. I'll say this about the first 2 series. The first 2 series. First off, you got the Reds, who we've been talking about the entire time. I think the Braves are going to be... I think they have a chance of sweeping the Reds, depending on their pitching performances. But after that, I believe, you got the Nationals after that. They're both at home. They're both against teams that aren't predicted to be very good. The Nationals are predicted to be 5th, I think, this year. I think they're going to be worse than the Marlins. If I had to make a prediction in the National League East, Nationals are going to be last place. I think it goes Braves, Mets. Phillies and Mets are going to fight over that second spot. But I'm going with Braves, Mets, Phillies, Marlins, and then the Nationals. That's what I'm going with. The reason I say the Phillies are going to fight over it, it's hard to say with the Mets right now because I don't know how long Scherzer's going to be out. DeGrom's going to be out a while. You know what? I might even put the Phillies, because they're both going to be out a while, I might even put the Phillies above the Mets for right now. But I definitely think the Nationals are going to be... I say all that to say the Braves are starting with potential to start very well against these 2 teams because it's the Reds and it's the Nationals. They're both predicted not to be very good. I think it's a good chance to go, and get a good start. 10 runs in all 4 games is going to be tough. Don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. It's funny. Jameson Taylor says he remembers that 29-9 game. I remember that game. That was a good one. I watched every minute of that, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Wolfman says he subscribed and liked. We appreciate that. By the way, guys, I know that a lot of you guys have done it already, and I appreciate it. If you haven't, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit the bell for notifications. And if you'd like, super chat. Also, for you super chatters out there, I'll just mention this real quick since I got a lot of you guys watching right now. I attached PayPal to the channel yesterday because YouTube takes a big chunk of change from any kind of super chat or anything like that. So if you're purely donating to the channel, like if you don't have anything, that you want me to answer in a live or anything like that, if you just want to donate, if you feel the need, you can do that now. I don't want YouTube to take your money from me. You can eliminate the middleman by just going to the PayPal. Don't trust any PayPal that's not attached to that channel. Go to the channel, go to that PayPal. You can drop off money there. And again, it goes to a complete separate account, and it's its own separate bank account. So that being said, I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate all super chats as well. But if you want to do it without 30% being taken, PayPal's the way to go. All right, so let's. I know we got a lot of chats to go through. I'm gonna just breeze through these, so we'll see what happens. All right, Jason Morrow, do you think Olsen will have as much production as Freeman? Yes, but in a different way. I think Freeman will have a better average. Maybe not with the shift now, but I think Freeman will. If I had to make an educated decision, Freeman will have a better average. Olsen will have more homers. I think that's kind of the way it'll go. Red Lake says, I'm telling you all, Matt Olson was playing in Cali. The air is dry out there. The ball carries more in Atlanta, and he hit 39. Agreed. Completely agreed. Dante Ramirez, remember the walk-off grand slam Acuna hit last season? I do. I was at the grand slam he hit against the Dodgers in 2018. That's the one I remember most. That's what made me think that the Braves are on the rise, and so far I was right. Jameson wants to know, am I doing a live stream tomorrow? Yes, it will be after the game. It will be right after, as soon as the game goes off, I'm getting on here. I may even open up the lobby. Sorry, guys. I may even open up the lobby to go ahead and be up here so you guys can be in the chat already during the 9th inning. And then I will, of course, jump in as soon as the game is over and give you a post-game. And just purely reactionary, purely answering your questions, that kind of thing. Because last year I learned, and I know I got to be breezing through here, but Last year I learned it's kind of hard. I remember talking about, yeah, we're going to do live streams. And it just got to be so hard to schedule live streams because, games were going on. And if games weren't going on, I had something. It just got really difficult. So what we're going to do, and it's not going to be every game, but it's going to be a good bit of games. We have 162 somewhere on the West Coast. It's just not going to happen every single game. But any game that I can, I'm going to live stream right after, maybe even right before. And if it's a 1 o'clock game or something like that, we'll do it normal time like this. But for right now, that's the plan, and we'll go from there. But yeah, we will be doing one tomorrow right after the game. Make sure you're ready to go. That's why I want you guys to turn the bell on. That's what the importance of the bell is so that you know when we go live. Jonathan James, you're a new guy. Appreciate the tuning in. Will there be more players available with the gold jerseys? I certainly hope so. To be honest with you, I just had to go through like a side source to get a Rosario jersey. I ordered it. We'll see what it turns out to look like. I don't know. But I wish that, we could get a Peterson jersey. I wish we could get a Matzik jersey. Guys like that, guys that, actually made an impact, in that series because they did. And, I think that merch needs to be out there. I've spoken before on my issues with the limitations of some of the Braves merchandise, and it's not their fault. I mean, they're going to make what sells. But, I think if you go to the Braves clubhouse store, you should be able to get a Necro jersey. They don't even have that. And it's like, dude's a Hall of Famer. He played on the team for 20 years. You can't get an Eddie Matthews. And look, I know these guys have, been retired and have passed away. But at the same time, there's still a generation that appreciates those players. And to be honest with you, I still appreciate those players. So at the end of the day, I think that's a problem. But when it comes to the World Series, I think I'd like to get a Jock Peterson jersey. I'd like to, have some merchandise that I can carry on because those guys aren't necessarily, core players, but they are, players that impacted that series, and Rosario especially. I think you probably will see at least Rosario. I'd be shocked if you didn't. But aside from that, I'd like to see a Peterson. I'd like to see a Soler. I'd like to see, Matzik, Will Smith. I mean, all those guys. I think they all kind of, maybe not in the same, quantity, but they all performed and they all deserve, to have their jerseys sold. And I would like to get a lot of them. If I'm willing to pay you money, I expect a result, So it just is what it is. That's how I feel about it. Josh Gillum, we won the World Series without our best player. I think it comes down to how hungry we are to repeat. Yeah, I think we need to start out early. I think, we put everybody on notice last year. They all know who we are. I think we need to start out early and get some, something under our feet early. Jameson Meza, I hear you. I'm sorry you're having a conversation. I'm going to have to skip down a little bit, guys. I apologize. Josh Gillum says, I love Heredia's energy, but we could upgrade his bat, in my opinion, but he does play center field late in games. I think that's what the value is there. Plus, he brings an energy, and I know that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear about the stats and all that, and I get that. But Heredia brings an energy, much like Peterson did, that can't be understated. And I'll tell you just a side story. A couple of years, I guess, right when Heredia got there, right at the start of last year, I was at a game, and there's a cop that I know that works down by the dugout, and he works all across the stadium. Mark Hampton, some of you guys probably follow him on Twitter, but he's become a friend of mine. He introduced me to Charlie Culberson and Mike Fultonevich and a couple others, but he's become a friend of mine. We talk a good bit. He kind of gave me insight on a lot of things. But I remember talking to him, is there anybody you like talking to in the dugout? The first guy he mentioned was Guillermo Heredia. He goes, man, he gets this team stirred up more than anybody else. And I got to tell you, based on the sword swinging I saw last year, I tend to agree. So we'll see how it goes. But right now, I really like Heredia to be on the roster for a while. Jason Morrow, is it just me or is Travis one of the most accomplished catchers in MLB? I agree. I agree with you. I would say this. Travis doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he gets overlooked because you got JT Realmuto, and catchers get overlooked naturally because they don't hit every day. Darno, if he hit every day, would hit 40 homers a year. I think Darno is a DH candidate, when he's not, when he's not catching, because the dude's bat is valuable. You can't deny that it's valuable. And, I'm not saying that it's, the best out there at the catcher position, but he is a valuable catcher. Look at how much the pitching staff improved when he returned. I think that says it all behind the plate, and his bat, speaks for itself. So that's how I feel. Let me see. I'm going to have to skip past some of you guys. I know a lot of you guys are talking. Here we go. This is the tail end of the chat. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Josh Gillum, last few comments. Thoughts on Kenley Jansen signing? Best bullpen in baseball now? Certainly in the conversation. I on paper, I would say yes, but we're going to have to see how it goes because we got a lot of injuries there. Dante Ramirez, what is your favorite jersey? Mine is the red alternate, and I have one. It's Rosario too. I think I just ordered that exact jersey. Hopefully it comes back okay. My favorite jersey is the, it's not a common one, but I think it's 76. It's the red pinstripe one. It's hanging in the stadium. It's the one that they got Necro in the Walk of Fame. His pictures of it over there. But I love that jersey. I can't find it anywhere. By the way, if you know where I can find that jersey, let me know because I'll pay for it. But I love that jersey. I love all the throwbacks. It's hard not to like the 74. It's really hard not to like those. In terms of the current, I like the red one. I like the navy one or the dark blue. There's not really one I don't like. To tell you the truth, I'll wear anything Braves, honestly. But yeah, I like them all. But if I had to pick one, it's that red pinstripe. I just can't find it anywhere. I'd love to have it. Jameson, thanks for the guys that help us win the World Series, but they're no longer part of this year's team. Get some shine as well with those gold jerseys. Hopefully so. Hopefully we see that. Hopefully they expand to cover all of them. Dante, the chop Heredia did after every home run. Yep. Josh Gillum, Travis hit some clutch bombs last year in the playoffs. He sure did. Darno is underrated. That's from Dante. Last chat of the night. Luca is my dad. 9777. Travis just calls a really good game, and everyone loves pitching to him. Every time a Braves pitcher is asked about it, they mention how great Travis is. All of that comes down to experience, and that cannot be underrated. And that's what I'm going to leave you with. And look, guys, last thing, and this is for sure my last comment. It's going to be a great day tomorrow. Obviously, opening day. If you can, watch it all day long. Watch all day long. Watch all the games across Major League Baseball, not just the Braves, but of course watch the Braves. Make sure to tune in here. We will be here. I'm going to do my best to be here in the ninth inning, just with the intro video up and that kind of thing. Just have you guys sitting here ready to go, and we'll start as soon as the game is over. Just give you an immediate reaction. If they lose, of course, we'll all be sad, but if they win, it'll be a fun show. So it'll be a fun show no matter what. Forget what I did. It'll be a fun show no matter what. So make sure you tune in. And, of course, bring your likes with you. Bring them along. Bring your friends with you. By the way, guys, I know a lot of you guys complain about that intro video. Why do I run that intro video? There's a reason for that. I am in the process of sharing the video all out to Facebook. So if you came here from Facebook, that's what I'm doing when I do that. So if you see that, just wait. Give me a couple of minutes. I'll be ready when I'm ready, and I will get on as quick as I can. So that's why you see that generic logo up with the music playing. It is for that very reason. So if you don't want me to do that, you share the video. Share it to Twitter. Share it to Facebook. Share it to Instagram. Share it to, I don't care, Reddit. I don't care. Share it anywhere. Just take it and run with it. And, of course, tell your friends about the channel. And, of course, tell all your folks about it. We do appreciate the support. We appreciate the super chats from Robert Gall, Johnny T., who else super chatted tonight? I'll go ahead and give you William Fulgham, always a super chatter. It feels like William Fulgham, Robert Gall too as well on that. Thanks for that, guys. Captain Spartan 04. I think that's everybody. It's everybody I can see for right now. Thanks for super chatting. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And of course, thanks for liking. And we will see you tomorrow night. So have fun tomorrow on opening day. And I will for sure be here with you as soon as I can tomorrow, right after the game. With that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time right here at On Deck.